Peace, peace, peace. What's going on out there, lovely ladies and gentlemen, gods and goddesses, mystics and magicians alike? Welcome, welcome, welcome. So we're gonna take the time and we're gonna break down the movie The Kingsman. And this was totally unexpected. This was not planned. I was not planning on incorporating this movie or this film into what I've currently been um, making content around. But I saw the movie and it just felt it just fit right in so nicely. So some of the things that we've been talking about around the history of the occult, secret societies and stuff like that, we're gonna kind of talk about it a little bit more, but in reference to this movie, we're gonna utilize this movie just to kind of take things a little further and to kind of paint the picture just a little bit brighter so we can make out everything that that we can get from it. So we're gonna take a look and do a little bit of breaking down on the film itself. Now, if you are on the Patreon, take a look on how you can be able to get access to that movie. I do highly advise you to watch this movie. If you have not seen The Kingsman, this was released in December 2021 in theaters everywhere. So if you haven't seen this movie, I do highly advise you to see the movie because we are pretty much going to spoil it because we have to dig into different aspects of the film to see what may be some hidden messages that may be hidden in there and how we can drive home some of the things we've been talking about already that's been um that's very closely related to this film, and you're gonna see why once we really start talking about it anyway. So once we really get into it, it's gonna be kind of obvious and we're gonna bring it all together and tie it on home. So we're gonna go ahead and jump right on into it. Now, The Kingsman, this particular movie is the third. This is the third one, so it is officially a trilogy with the completion of this movie. Now, this one is actually a prequel, so it goes back in time and shows us how the Kingsman agency came to be what it was, how this thing was established, all the things that took place that allowed this agency to become what it was. So this is what this movie is all about. It's about completing the circle. Okay? And one of the spiritual messages, or one of the things that I felt was really reiterated in this movie, along with it's really a lot of spiritual gems that was in this movie, is that everybody has their own path to walk. And you have to keep in mind that there are some individuals who are divinely selected for a purpose. And when you are divinely selected, that's a contractual agreement that was established before you got here. Let's go into this. Let's get into this movie though. Now, let's keep in mind. Now, we note and understand that this is not a historically accurate or context film or documentary. This is for entertainment, and it's loosely based around certain historical figures and events. Okay, but always keep in mind, especially when you're dealing with the occult, you have to know that it's more than just entertainment. Typically, you get a lot of the mystery in the entertainment because we are told that it's entertainment, but in all actuality, it's subconscious programming, or sometimes it's predictive programming. So we do acknowledge that and we keep that in mind, but we are also aware that movies and the things of the art is the perfect place to have decoded messages or coded messages for those people to decode, which is why you get a lot of people who do the symbolic breakdowns of different events and what different things mean, etc., etc., right? But here, what I specifically do is we don't deal in superstition. We don't deal in the taboo. We want to dispel the superstition because it's very mentally inhibiting, and we just want to have an open mind here. Okay, this is a space for open mind, open thinking. Now let's just get on back to the movie, and we're gonna get all into this because I was I was pleasantly surprised at how much I did like the movie. I've seen the other two. I thought they were, I didn't really see too much into it, but this one kind of made me want to rehash it and kind of go back and look a little deeper, because this one really stuck out with a lot of symbolism and a lot of jewels that had multiple or double meanings. As we discussed in the previous video, we talk about how a lot of your occult schools of thought or occult organizations, brotherhoods, fraternities, etc., they like to talk about things in a manner that spoke on a double truth. So it may be true in an instance for some ways, and in some ways it may not. So that double truth or that double talk thing is a constant, kind of a constant occult thing per se, per have you. But anyway, so let's move on to this. So when we get into the opening scene of the movie, the very first scene of the movie, so they tell us the timeline. They place us in 1902. And so we meet Shola. He's one of the first characters, right? And so we see him, and you got to take note and you got to acknowledge, okay, the brother's headwear and what's on his head, and acknowledging what that means at 360 degrees, the fez, the knowledge. So we're going to acknowledge that. And we see here that they are traveling under the guise of the Red Cross, which you should be aware of when it comes to that symbolic cross symbol. The thing about the cross is such a universal symbol, and it predates Christianity. So when they would go into different parts of the world, especially those parts that hadn't been colonized, when you have a cross that is a similar symbol of something that is transparent or translucent to that culture that people 9 times out of 10. So that symbol itself translated and was a trans it's kind of like a universal symbol. We're gonna just put it that way. It's a universal symbol. But anyway, they was traveling under the guise of being the Red Cross, and of course it's more of a political travel, even though say, hey, we with the Red Cross, but it was political because what we know in the movie, the Duke of Oxford, who is our main character, he is very involved with politics and things of the nature, so to speak. And so let's move along here. So we got Shola, who is the main character. Now, what we need to know about the name Shola is a girl's name in Yoruba. So it's an African name meaning one who is blessed. Okay, and I'm gonna kind of get more into the symbolism on it a little bit too. And so in the opening scene, when we meet Shola and we meet the Duke, and we also meet his son, and his son and Shola, they have a discussion around King Arthur. There's a King Arthur reference. Now, majority of the time when you have a King Arthur reference, or when King Arthur is referenced, it's referencing secret societies, it's referencing mystical origins, something around that nature, because the King Arthur's tale itself and all the symbols of King Arthur is very symbolic. It's very Moorish science centered. So if you know Moorish science, then you know a lot of that symbolism in King Arthur's. Dealing with King Arthur, we deal with King Arthur's court, the Knights of the Round Table. Why it's 12 of them? It's no coincidence why it's 12, just like it's 12 disciples. Just like it's 12 zodiac signs. It's really all kind of symbolic to the macro, which is the cosmos, and the micro within yourself, referencing your 12 cranial nerves that's in your brain. Okay? So when we hear a King Arthur reference, or when something is talking about King Arthur or something like that, that's usually a code. That's usually symbolically referencing something mystical, some mystical origin, or some hidden some hidden knowledge somewhere. So that's usually what that entails when you hear of a King Arthur reference. So the boy referenced King Arthur. Now, not only is it a secret society or mystical reference, so we know that it's also symbolic to chivalry. It's also symbolic to in sophistication, being of high regard. So this is the symbolic reference that is played out a lot within this movie. And so just to go further, so moving on along in the movie, so we see they're going to see about what's going on there in South Africa. I believe it's 1902. So Britain is in a war in South Africa at this particular time, historically speaking. So they're going to, do some politicking, so to speak, to meet with the one of their people here, General Kitchener. And in the process, what happens is the mother is killed when there's an attempt on Kitchener's life. Now, this is the very beginning, but her death is a very pivotal moment in the film itself. So there's specific things, there's highlights in the conversation or in the dialogue that plays a very vital part in telling the story. So the conversation with her son, her impact on him, always helping people, not hiding behind his status, and her last dying words to the fathers to protect their son from seeing any forms of war. So we fast forward 12 years. They tell us now they're going to take us to 12 years later. Now, 12 years later, coming up on some more issues, but we have to look at the number 12 itself and the spiritual components and the meaning behind the number 12. Now, the number 12 is a very spiritual number. It represents completion. Now, we know 9 is a number of completion because 9 completes the set of numbers. After 9, there's just repeat of numbers. You go to 0, then you get 1 and 0, 1, 1, 1, 2. There's no new numbers following 9, only a combination of the numbers that preceded following. But when you're dealing with the number 12 and talking in forms of completion, we're talking about cyclic completion. Like, as stated earlier, the 12 Knights of the Round Table, you got the 12 zodiac signs, the 12 months of the year, your 12 cranial nerves. The number 12 has a very, very strong spiritual essence to it. Okay? So, just like, if we're looking at the 12th house in the zodiac wheel itself, representing karma, representing unseen or hidden forces. So we know we're dealing with something very strong, very mystical. This is a very mystical movie that drops a lot of gems about hidden knowledge and about things that's hidden. And it can be applied on multiple platforms of life. So one of the things, so I just wanted to highlight something that was said in the film, right? Polly, a very strong component or character in the film. She's on the other hand of the Duke. So on one side of the Duke you have Shola and you have Polly. So you have these two forces on the side of him. Now, mind you, I told you that Shola is a girl's name, and that's because spiritually, when you get a masculine energy on sided with two feminine energies, it's like Osiris with Isis and Nephthys. So it's like that energy when you see that. Now, although Shola is a guy, we know that, but we're talking about the reference, the essence of the name. Okay, so but she says to him, fear is natural. The problem is that the more you fear something, the more likely it is to come true. That's literally the law of attraction. That's just energy. The more you focus on something, the more of that actual thing you will see more of. And this is something that she told him, because how we see the Duke acting, he's very overprotective over his son to a point that it's a detriment. So he doesn't allow him to go places without him. He doesn't want him to do anything without him. And he's living the life of an aristocrat. So it's a very bubble protective life. So he can learn and be educated and all of those things right there on the own compounds of his own land. He doesn't have to go anywhere to do anything. That's the luxury of an aristocrat. So it's like literally being born into, that's being born into a position of power. Okay, so that's how we see that they are now 12 years later, and this is where we are. And so we go on, and they, so his son is at the point he's becoming a man. Okay, so he takes him to a tailor, the Kingsman tailor shop, gets him fitted for a suit, and he has a conversation with him there. And he talks about the savagery of their ancestors. He says they were terrible people. They robbed, lied, pillaged, and killed until one day they found themselves noblemen. So he's in Oxford. We're talking about the Duke of Oxford. So think about the word Oxford. Oxford University, Oxford, England. So this is telling you the prominence of his family and who and what he comes from. Okay? So it's safe to assume that, these are their descendants, because that's typically how it works in these particular times, and when you're dealing with names and when you're dealing with the hierarchies of class and aristocracy and all of that type of thing. That's typically how it is. Okay, so and in this process we see he meets old dude from the beginning, the general. So he's involved, he knows what's going on, but as stated, he's a gentleman, a nobleman, so he reserves, you know, from that. And we hear that he says to him, basically he's a pacifist, meaning he doesn't like violence. He's against violence. He finds violence and war to be unjustifiable. Okay, so that's one of the things about him, and he's asking him to get involved too. He's asking him for a favor to talk to someone, because there's some political concerns that's going on. So, like I talked about before, when it comes to secret societies and cabals and whatnot, it's more than just hearing those words and thinking automatically something is just this one depicted way. It's about understanding how it got to be what it is. So things like that formulate because the people that's in the position, those that's in the forefront, honestly, most of the time, they're not the ones that are in control. There are people that are behind the scenes, that are pulling the strings. They are the shadow government. They are the ones behind the curtain. They are the ones that are causing certain things to happen in certain places that, kind of just stirs the pot and creates an outcome that would benefit said parties, regardless of the public or regardless of the grand masses of people. It is about what that particular group or particular people or person may be aspiring to do and have the power and the money to make said things happen. Okay, so that's what this whole movie is about. It's some spy shit, some politics shit, some military shit. It's about what go on behind the scenes and what's really the cause of wars and all of this shit. And you find out it's nothing but bloodlines. It's nothing but wars amongst the bloodlines. Alright, so they at the tailor shop. They happen to see the Secretary of the State or what have you, Kitchener, his homeboy from before. So he asking them to go see some other aristocrat, some other dude in position of power, Ferdinand, some archbishop somewhere. But anyway, he asked him to go. He like, look, bro, I know you a pacifist and everything, but I just want you to go talk to him. I think he in danger. Tell him what the deal is. So he agreed to go and do it. Okay, but now where it gets where it starts to really get interesting with the symbolism. So when you get introduced now, they give us this screenshot, right? And this really jumped out at me, because it's ideally like a mountain. So, but immediately I got the concept, the idea of the petrified tree stumps, which takes me to, these things are remnants of an old world, or a world that no longer exists anymore. If we leaving it up to speculation, or according to mystical origins or what have you. So I found this really interesting because they always have to give you the symbolism. It's always given in an okie doke. So they got to give you the dark side, the bad guy, the villain who is always going to go against that main system. So in this case, when what's going on here, these people or whoever is pulling these strings behind the closed doors, now we're about to get introduced to them. And the mere fact that you see this is already bringing forth the dark concept, because we're talking about an old world. Everything that's old is what's considered dark, primeval, and those types of things. So because it's an old science, so it's not around anymore. So immediately I thought about the petrified tree stumps, and you can Google this and take a look into this if you want to look more into it. But I immediately thought, man, that's exactly what that looks like, right? Like when you look at it, like that's what it looks like. Like maybe a giant tree was like chopped, right? So that's the concept behind the petrified tree stumps. So when you see that, and then so the only way to get up here, you have to take a lift to go up. Okay, so you can only get up there by rising up, and it's a long way up. And when they show somebody first coming up, soon as the dude comes out of the barn from where the lift is, it's nothing but goats. So you just see a bunch of goats. Okay, so the goat symbolism, think about the goat symbolically in this connection to nature. And the devil, Satan, Baphomet, all that is symbolically described like a goat. So you dealing with you dealing just know that this is symbolic to dealing with the darkness, dealing with the dark side. So you're dealing with the old people, you're dealing with the old science. It's that type of thing. That's the okie doke. That's what we seeing. So this is where we get to finally meet who the opposition is, or what the opposition is, or what it is exactly that they are up against. And when they show home dude, they never really show him. He's just always in the shadows. So they always keeping him in the shadows because they don't want you to see who he is, for one, and because for two, that's kind of part of it. It's the shadow. There's someone behind the shadows that's encouraging these things to happen, that's influencing the whole entire world. So, and here's a better look at it. So, and this is what you get. So you got, the figurehead of said organization, cabal, clique, group, gang, whatever you want to call them. And these are all these people. And you got to pay attention to everybody at the table, because we see all of these people at the table in the position that they play out in the actual world. So people have more than one identity, more than one role. And that's the whole point, and that's the way that these things work. So that's all we doing in looking at this movie. We're just seeing this is how these things work and how they play out historically, how they can affect history. Now, mind you, we can't say that any of this is true, but we can say that we do know and we are well aware that a lot of these organizations or brotherhoods or what have their own forms of history. And who's to say there isn't some of your more well known Hollywood writers, screenwriters, or what have you, who hasn't incorporated some of those stories into the entertainment? But we have to leave that to speculation, right? So I'll let you draw your conclusions for that. But so as you can see here, so you see he has a group of individuals who you can see from their attire, what they're wearing, that they are a part of different governmental factions. and he obviously has some sort of plan or some sort of goal or something working in mind, and he needs to utilize these particular individuals, and everything he does is pretty much in a sense set up like the way a secret society or organization is set up. So he has all of them, and they all have, so he gives each of them a ring with an animal on it to be with a symbolic reference to them. And he says, he asked them, can I trust you to behave like them? Because he says, I only trust animals because I know they're going to do what I want them to do, what I expect them to do. He's telling them, I need you to hold up to the same standard. That's pretty much what he's telling them. So he asked them, can he trust them? So when he gives them these rings, he says these rings are symbolic to the members of my flock, and they call him shepherd. So he's their leader, and they follow or they go where he tells them to go. Now, mind you, a shepherd is the leader of sheep, and sheep are always led to slaughter. And within those rings, there's also a little tablet of poison if they were to get captured, caught, so they are not telling anything. Now, these people at this table, actually, most of these people in this movie, these are based on real people, as I've said before. And I think it says it in the movie when it's coming on that it's based on true events. But these are real people. These things really occurred. This is what was leading up to World War I. And so when he talks to the guy, what's his name? The princip, the first guy he gives the first task to. He has the bear symbol. So he tells him his job is to kill the Archduke Ferdinand. Now Kitchener is sending the Duke to talk to him to let him know his life is in danger from what he suspects, and he's right. And so he's sending little dude to go kill him. So, like I said, you have to pay attention because everybody sitting at this table, these were real people involved in history. Now, it's trying to allude to the fact that this world war was started by powers that be behind the scenes, which could not be, far from the truth. That's absolutely how the majority of these things go about, and it usually has to do with bloodlines and the sins of the father or those of the ancestors that come back to pretty much bite them in the ass at the end of the day. That's pretty much what happens, and this is what we are seeing. So the whole way that this movie is laid out, so you got to remember when we talked about the secret organizations and just dealing with the occult science throughout history and how propaganda and all those things were used. See, this is kind of a part of that same type of thing. So the knowledge itself also suffered when you had different organizations or groups of people or things or whatever the case may be, that they were making these moves because these people usually exhibited or they usually had a sense of higher knowledge, and a lot of times that breeds rebellion. So a lot of times you're gonna go against the system. The more you know about this shit, the more you want to tear it down. I mean, that's just generally the way that it goes. And so we're gonna get more. Let's go. Now, so a lot of points in this movie, right, is like very perfectly timed. So it's kind of alluding to the stars aligning. It's alluding to cosmic influence. And cosmology, cosmic influence is a big part of the occult mystery or being in the shadows. It's usually utilized to their advantage. So in the movie, when we see things kind of lining up perfectly, it's that's what it's alluding to. Cosmic influence, cosmic alignment, something that's supposed to happen. Now, mind you, like I said, a lot of these things actually did occur in history. So, he actually did kill the Archduke of Serbia. He actually did kill him, Archduke Ferdinand. He did do that, historically speaking. Now, this movie, like I said before, it dropped so many gems. Excuse me, guys. Let me get a little bit more comfortable. So it drops a lot of gems, right? And the dude, he attempted to kill him the first time, and he missed. He missed. The son, Conrad, forwarded his plan and deflected the bomb. And just when he thought he failed and he was gonna kill himself with cyanide poison, they literally drive right past him. Drive right past him, drive to a dead end, come to a dead end. You need to turn around. So it's perfect and ample opportunity, like he was supposed to kill him, like was destined to kill him. And he does. So he kills him and his wife. Later on, we see the Duke and his son. So now the Duke is seeing how serious this is. Like, man, this really was for real. And he's, hearing word of these other. See, it's a chain reaction. One thing happens and it leads to a whole more course of events happening, especially when you're dealing on a grand scale of politics. And his son asks him, Conrad asked him, he says, and I think I got the screenshot. He asked him, he says, so why do Serbia, it's such a small part of the world, why do they even care? He said, well, son, because small things can grow into big problems. And remember that. Even in life, with anything, small things can grow into big problems. So when people say, why would they care? Because small things can become a big problem if you just continue to let it fester and let it grow, right? And he goes on to tell him the story. This is how we know this shit ain't nothing but bloodlines. He goes on to tell him how all this shit was, right? So he said years ago there was 3 young cousins. The eldest was the real troublemaker. He felt he was entitled. He pretty much said there's no rules in war. When you grow up entitled and you handed rulership like that, you don't have to fight, you don't ever have to do anything. You have a different way of perceiving based on how things really are, right? Now their grandmother was Queen Victoria. So their grandmother was Queen Victoria, and she always was the one who kept them in line. So you had the three cousins. They grow up to become rulers. Okay, so you got one who rules over Germany, one who rules over Russia, and one who rules over Britain. William Kaiser, who's ruling over Germany. You have Tsar Nicholas over Russia, and then you have King George over Britain. All right, so this is all sparking up their feud. Now, mind you, they cousins at the end of the day, but they've been fighting and they've been who they are since they were little kids. Only for this shit to get stirred back up when they become grown adults and have real armies and real people and real land and real empires and shit. So that becomes the problem. So you got Kaiser William of Germany, Tsar Nicholas of Russia, and King George of England. And so with the Archduke Ferdinand being killed, this gives the Kaiser an opportunity to just be an asshole, to just start something, because he was always the cousin who always started shit anyway. And he has the little deformity. So that's probably what is rooted in. He got a deformity, probably insecure as hell, right? Because, I mean, this is what we talking about. These are the people that were in control of ruling, all because they were fortunate enough to be born in that position. Didn't earn it, didn't do anything, but just be born with a particular name or in a particular family and have the authority to rule. Sometimes that work out, but not always. And we know that historically speaking. So that's not a coincidence. And the son asked him, Conrad, he's like, come on now, surely they have matured enough that they'll avoid war. He's like, one would hope so. You would think that. You would hope that. But there's somebody in the shadows that's hoping that's not the case. And that's hoping to continue to manipulate and do things in the dark and behind the scenes to continue to fester, and so to ensure that there will be a war. And it starts to get a little more interesting when you move on. So in the next scene, you see the Kaiser of Russia being consulted by someone. Now, if you recognize him, you know that he was one of the flock. So he's, of course, his strings are being pulled by whoever it is who is running this little shadow government over here, who's trying to get them to go to war. Now, so far we don't know why. They haven't really came into the why as to why this is occurring, why they're doing this yet. We don't know that yet. At least not at this particular point in the movie. So we see now that he's being directly influenced by the powers that be, not knowing so, of course, because he's the Kaiser, he's appointed. He feels like he the one. You can't tell him nothing. He wants what he wants, and that's why he's like, if I want a war, then I will have it. That's just his mentality. And it don't help old dude here really trying to influence him to do that anyway. That's what he want him to do, right? So that's what he want. Now at the same time, now we take notice here with the Shah of Russia. Okay, so we know dealing with Tsar Nicholas, he's also being influenced because we got Rasputin right here, who is influencing him and who's giving him counsel and who's nudging him towards war because they have a hidden agenda. There is something more at play here other than just their little feud that they can only see, that they are blinded by. They couldn't see anything else going on behind it. Now, like I said, this is based on real people and real events. So a lot of these things really did occur, but the story itself in behind saying these are the things that happen behind closed doors, we can say that this is made up, so to speak, right? So this is a real person. This was a real event, right? He really actually did murder the Archduke Ferdinand, which was pretty much like a detonator to World War One. If you know your history, that's what kicked off World War One, so to speak. Okay, and it was suspicious things around his death or what have you. Not this exactly, but there was some suspicion it was a terrorist plot or what have you behind his death. So this is the real three cousins right here. This is the three cousins that is really based off of. And this is Rasputin. He's really based off of a real person. The real Rasputin around 19. This is a picture of him around 1914 right here. So he's really based off of this real person. Eric, he's also based off of this real person. He was really a part of everything that went on in Russia, even dealing with what's your man's name out of Russia? Adolf Hitler. So in the Nazis and all that, he was a part of the whole Nazi thing. So this is just kind of insinuating that these people were always being, these people were always a part of greater plan, always a part of a greater group that had their own agendas or what have you throughout history. So these are based on real people, like I said. And because these things have occurred, because you have these people that are influencing, even though the one person, the King George, who does not have someone directly who is trying to manipulate him, that's counsel that's from there. So he's the one who's trying to keep the peace. He like, look, we family, we cousins. Let's just remember what it is we supposed to do. Let's avoid war. But when you got other people in your ear telling you shit, it don't always work out like that. It's easy to let other people gas you up. So they have to go to war still because the British have to join because they are allies with Russia, with Germany. So they have to Russia with Russia. So they have to go to war too. So for 2 years, they start war, and now we finally learn why. What is it? Who is it? Why are they pulling this? Why do you want them to go? Now we see what happens. So now that we see that, and we recognize that these individuals have infiltrated these different governments for the manipulation to occur, now they kind of reveal what the whole point of everything is all about. And if you see the scene where he pretty much breaks down, after 2 years of war, they amassed millions dead. They've drained all of Europe's resources. So he was thinking the timeline was going to be 10 years, but in 2 years, you go from this picture on the left to this picture here on the right. And it's millions of people that's dead. Now it's interesting though, because Bobby Hemmett said something, and it sounds so cold, but it's so occult that you get what he's saying when you really into this occult shit. He said the masses ain't never did nothing but died. And that's pretty much like what it boils down to. Like, it boils down to people dying. Like, even in older civilizations, even when they was doing, even if they was doing human sacrifice, like, it's always been something that has occurred on this plane. It's not to make an excuse for it, but it's just understanding the reality of this physical, and why certain occult schools of thought view this physical the way that they view it, as being like a hell planet or a purgatory, or an abomination, so to speak. That's why some occult schools of thought are structured that way, because that's pretty much like what is what it's alluding to, or what it's breaking down. So, all of this is going on in the war, and as they revealed, now that they revealed to us the whole reason that this particular group of people has come together, and it goes back to Scotland. So, dude apparently is from Scotland, has roots in Scotland, and hates the English for oppressing Scotland for over 700 years. And he called them the inbred monarchs, only ruling due to their fortunate births. Okay, and so once again, you talking about bloodline wars. It's just dealing with different sets or groups of people, and in this particular case, it utilizes an actual bloodline to go against each other. So, alright, so now we move on. And so they've been at war, of course. Conrad has steady been wanting to go to war, right? Because that's just who he is. And the dynamic between this father and son is interesting, because so the son, he wants to go to front lines, fight for the war, fight for his country, but his father's trying to protect him, right? So his father knows things that Conrad is not aware of. He sees things, he's experienced things, he's aware of things that he simply doesn't know. And also, like you see here, that's why we got this arrow pointed here, and it's interesting seeing you got the mother on the wall behind the son, and is in a position where only the father can see the mother. And at this, even though the way the son see it is that the father is holding him back, he kind of sort of is, and at the same time, he's trying to keep his promise to the mother, so he's trying to honor her. So she's back here on the wall, and here she is. So that's symbolic in itself. So that's just about symbolizing what's known to us but not known to all the characters that's present. That is a factor. That's something that highlights the shadow work, things that's working in the shadows, things that's working behind the scenes, reasons unknown, things that are unknown because it hasn't come to light yet. So it's symbolic to the unconscious, it's symbolic to the shadow. So unless that's dealt with, that's gonna come back to haunt you. So when you don't deal with your shadow, it's gonna come back to haunt you. Feel me? So that's the entertainment portion of the story, so to speak. But of course, the son he's not really trying to hear none of this. At the end of the day, he want to go fight. He feel like his pops is holding him back. But like I state right here, he's really just a fool. And it's not a bad thing. It's not in a bad way. It's about energetically speaking. Because a fool, no, I didn't say unintelligent or stupid. I said a fool. So because he's unwise. He's not experienced. He doesn't know any better. Even in the beginning, when his family, he was with his parents, and they were going and basically the things that happened, he still didn't oversee all of the bodies in the very beginning. If you see like all the graves, so he has a romanticized idea in his head about war, like most people do, because we don't know what we don't know. That's the thing. We don't know what we don't know. And so he's talking to him because he like, look, I went into town. These people gave me a feather, and the white feather, in this instance, is symbolic to being a coward. And so he tells his dad, like, damn, so people looking at me like I'm a coward. Like, why should I have to suffer this humiliation? He says humiliation. Understand? He says, why do I have to suffer this humiliation? Understand? Listen to this. Listen to this, no, because he really give you occult jewels. And he says, you want to fight because it's a testament to your character, right? And he tells them, reputation is what people think of you, and character is what you are. So this is yet again we're dealing with in the light and in the dark, because you may be able to be one thing if you are perceived a certain way in the light. It may allow you to be able to be another way. It all makes sense because it brings it all full circle later on in the movie anyway. But it goes on, he talks to him, he shows him his own medal. And he tells him, because remember that his father is a pacifist. So now he's talking to him about basically another life that he was a part of when he went to war himself. And he lost himself in the war and the killing. And that's what made him change. And when he was talking about the war, the interesting thing, you see, the people that they was fucking up in the war, it was some Moors. Yet and still, study your history. I only pointing that out so people can understand and know this history that we aren't taught, to go back and to study it for yourself. So, and this is what he was talking to his son about. This is what he was trying to get him to understand. Like, I know you want to fight, and it's because you want to do what you feel is right, and I commend you for that. But this ain't no real war. This is a war we never seen before. Everybody just, and it showed you, everybody they just dying, bro. It don't even look like they stand a chance. So of course he wouldn't want his son to go get killed, right? So moving on, what you see now. So now they take us and show us Rasputin, right? And they show us exactly what it is that he's doing, how he's manipulating over the Tsar. And he's basically using his position of being a priest and his ability to heal to manipulate to get him to pull out of the war, because that's the whole plan, right? So, and as you can see, we take notice, of course, we got the black and white checkerboard floor because, Rasputin utilized a lot of dark magic, a lot of dark signs. So, and you can see, so like when he heals the boy, he uses like a tonal frequency type of thing to heal the boy, and that's his ability. So we see him do this weird thing with using his voice and using this vibrational frequency of his voice and bring the boy back. And we also saw that he was also responsible for the poison that the boy took anyway. So all of this is a big manipulation, because of course he has other agendas. He has ulterior motives because he's there on the basis for somebody else. There's something else that he has planned. That's the whole thing, the whole infiltration. So what they show us, Conrad has a cousin who's in Russia, and he writes him a letter about Rasputin and his influence that he has, and he's asking him, like, maybe your pops can help. So what Conrad chooses to do instead, he wanted to take it to Kitchener because he want to go with him, because remember, his dad is not trying to let him see no action, do no war. He's trying to keep him out of harm's way, and he already knows that he's already informed Kitchener not to let him through. So, he takes him this information, want to show him how valuable he is, because he wants to get he wants to get involved. He wants to do what he feels like he's supposed to do. Of course, his pops find out. He comes. He's like, "No, bro, that ain't gonna work." And Kitchener goes on to go. Good thing he didn't go, because it's at this particular point in time that Kitchener gets killed. And he really does die like this in real life. Historically, he dies by drowning. They say the same exact thing. They say in the movie he had a German mind, but they don't think that that's the case, and that's what happens. And it's at this particular point that the Duke realizes that he has to reveal to his son who he really is at this particular point. And this is when he shows him that he's basically a person working in the shadows. He's a shadow worker. So all he's saying is, you know, he said, this war has made me realize. He said, this war has made me realize that that we cannot rely on politicians to do their job properly. And so he decided to do something about it. And that's what we see in this particular point in the movie. He kind of shows us who he is, because mind you, we've been thinking he's just a gentleman. He doesn't want his son to go to war, elite. We don't see him get his hands dirty, so to speak. But now he's going to reveal more of his truer intentions. So, he's revealing to his son his true identity and his true intentions. And he tells him, and this is a real gem, he says, "My reputation is of a man not wanting to be involved, which means my character finds it much easier to be involved unnoticed." So he's telling him, because people have the assumption or the idea, or perhaps the misconception of him being someone who wants nothing at all to do with any of those particular things, it makes it easier for him to be involved unnoticed. So it's like the spook who sat by the door, kind of, so to speak. So it's like, this is who I appear to be, but this is who I really am. I appear to be this way so that I can truly do what it is that I need and want to do over here without having to deal with any grief behind it. So sometimes you don't always know people's true intention. Sometimes the way people reveal themselves to be publicly is not always who they are behind closed doors, and that is by intention. Sometimes it's by design. So even like Ray Charles say, playing country dumb, make them feel like you're too stupid to know anything, just to get them to reveal more so that you put yourself in a better position. It's kind of similar, kind of like the same thing. So we're working in the shadows. And so what he said was, because your cousin did send that letter, we extended our network. So he let him know not only was he involved along with Polly and Shola, but they built a whole network of domestic workers in all of these places so that they can have intel from people who are literally in these places so that they can truly get the best information that's available. So they are also infiltrators. So it ain't just the bad side who has infiltrators, even though they're more influential, but they also have infiltrators as well so that they can get the knowledge and get the information too, so that they can know how they're going to move. So, and this is where he explains to Conrad he's found a ring connection. So there has to be a connection between what's going on. These people have to be working together. So his cousin is throwing a Christmas ball, and Rasputin has accepted his invitation, and they come up with this whole plan, this whole scheme. They're gonna go and basically kill Rasputin, because they feel like if they can do this and prevent him from influencing Russia to get out of the war, then things can kind of settle down and the war doesn't have to continue, especially the way that it's going, because mind you, England is losing, right? So that's what they do. Now they know because of their domestic networkers, because of the intel they could gather, they know that he has a weakness for sweet cakes and he also has a weakness for boys. So they come up with this whole plan to get Conrad to get him alone in a room, get him to eat some cake that's cooked with some poison. So that's the plan that they're gonna go with to try to kill Rasputin. And it's at this particular point we get ready to get into the action. So they decided they're gonna kill Rasputin. They got their plan in order and everything. So they meet. He decides he doesn't want Conrad. He want the pops. So they gotta swap. They gotta trade places, and you get the Duke dealing with Rasputin instead. And it's almost like he kind of like interrogates him a little bit. So he do his little tonal frequency thing, kind of like put him in a trance and start asking him questions. And at the same time, he's healing his leg from when he was shot in the beginning of the movie. He's been walking with a cane ever since. Even though he still can fight, he has a very, you know, the wound in his leg is still very much making it difficult for him in certain instances. So he's using his dark magic, type of thing to heal his leg, and he does heal his leg. He realizes they trying to kill him anyway because he eats the cake. His body is like kind of like immune to the poison. He throws it up. So they have this big old fight and everything, etc., etc. So we know eventually though they kill Rasputin. Okay, so they on their way back home, and um so they on their way back home. Well, and before this, we also noticed there's a scene in there where the shepherd, news of Rasputin dying, of course, he sends in somebody else to do something else, and he calls him Conrad Lenin. Now, what we know from him historically, if his name is Lenin, he's in Russia. He's Vladimir Lenin, who was a Russian communist who was kind of behind a revolution in Russia, which led to the split and it becoming the Soviet Union. So, what they're still steadily alluding to is that a lot of these things that occurred historically was because of some other force pulling the strings behind closed doors, which is a very likely thing that has occurred, but they just entertaining you through the purposes of this movie. But they are still telling you this is pretty much what go down. This is how it happens behind closed doors, right? So and he told him, he said, look, just start your revolution. I don't care about your ideologies, your politics. Just get that shit done so you can get Russia out of this war, because that's the plan. He want Germany to just go in on Britain so they could lose. So now we get to the point where they show them on a train. We're dealing with what I consider this to be, it's like a celestial event. So they accomplish something. They kill Rasputin. Okay, so it's a major win for them in this war. And at the same time, now it's Conrad's birthday, so he's come of legal age. Now, mind you, the only reason he has not entered into the military forces or join the wars because he legally can't because of his age. But now he is of legal age. But at the same time, his father has also revealed to him the true workings of what it is he does behind closed doors. But that's not enough for Conrad because he very much plans to enlist in the military anyway. He doesn't care. Why? Because more than likely it's a romanticized thing. You gotta do what's done in the light. It's not easy to work in the shadows because you don't get no credit for it. You don't get no notoriety for it. Don't nobody know about it. There's no publicity. Don't nobody know what you're doing behind closed doors. And so to me, that's always a harder thing to do versus just showing your hand when you come. Like in this society, how people go at this system. You got some people who outright, you know who and what they stand for outright. And there's some people who you don't know, who you may not know who or what they are. It's just like Django. Remember on Django, when he explained to him, you have to play a role. We're going to have to do this particular thing so we can go in and get your woman. And he had to appear a certain way and he had to play that role to the T. And it was a lot of things that happened that could have questioned where he stood, and he had to stomach that shit because it was just like when the dude got ate by the dog. Now Of course, that was like probably the worst thing to see to deal with. He probably really wanted to react to it, but he couldn't. Not if he wanted to get done what he really wanted to get done. He had to keep his eyes on the prize. And that's a very, very hard thing to do. And it takes extreme discipline, and it takes extreme shadow work, because it takes for you to work with your ego. Because all that really wants credit anyway is the ego. Whatever wants notoriety, attention, wants to be seen as smarter, bigger, better, all that is just ego. So, as we stated before, Conrad is young. He's foolish. But as I stated in the very beginning, there are some things that you are spiritually contractually obligated to do, because you already contractually agreed to do said thing before you even got here. Now that's where your belief system comes into play. But you can believe whatever you choose to believe, right? See, so his father, you know, so this is still an ongoing war. So you still have, Germany and Britain going at it. And in the process, Germany is blowing up everything that even anybody that even tried to come to England to bring them supplies, food, anything. He like let them starve. So in the process, you blowing up U.S. ships in the terms of, okay, so now you might be pissing them off and making them feeling like they want to join the war. So all this is happening, all this occurring simultaneously. So while Conrad is being trained to be a soldier, they are trying to intercept telegrams and still trying to put forth information and figure out what it is that's going on, all these things behind the scenes. So you have both of these things working at the same time. And so when the Duke intercepted the telegram, or Polly, or what have you, when they intercepted the telegram, they felt that it was definitely going to bring an end to the war, because the telegram was proof that the Americans would need to get into the war, right? But it still didn't go as planned, and he didn't. The American president at that time still didn't want to just jump into this war. It's like, well, I don't know that this is real. So he said that's what he was saying, right? Now, I always remember that what's done in the dark is always going to come to light. So what happens is, so that's just like we see here. He's like, son, I don't understand. You doing way more than you need to do and helping me, insisting and doing what we doing. This is the real fight. These are the real people pulling the strings on the war. But of course, like we said, it's not enough. So when they intercepted that telegram, him and the king pretty much had a little celebration, because they thinking the Americans gonna join the war. And he assures them, look, I'm not gonna let your son get sent nowhere where he put in harm's way. You know what I'm saying? All that you are doing is gonna save countless lives. The least I could do is help your son, right? But what's done in the dark come to light. So he should have followed his first gut, because he didn't want to do that, because he didn't feel like it was the right thing to do. But he like, look, come on. So in the process of doing that, though, Conrad gets a whiff of this, because of something that a superior officer says, basically like telling him, you know, you're favored. That's why you ain't gonna be here and be put in the war. He ain't like that. He didn't like that type of manipulation. So what he did was he swapped places with somebody else, and he goes front line the war. And what happens? He dies. He go out there and he dies. And before, he's like, damn, my daddy tried to tell me I should have really listened to what he was saying, but he didn't know. He was foolish. But at the same time, he was doing only what he was supposed to do. He was being himself. He was being what he was supposed to be. And in the process of him risking his life, or dying, what he died for, his sacrifice, brought forth what his father had already accomplished. So his father, they intercepted that message. But what Conrad discovered on the battlefield was the actual telegram itself, even though he died for it. So he died for that. But that's what it was. And so, and it was this particular moment where he found out that his son died. So, um, it's the whole time, you know, the whole time he was trying to honor the promise to his wife. But he just could not deny Conrad's purpose. He couldn't deny what he was there for. I don't care what you do. You can't deny why you here. And that death, that pain is a transformation. Out of that pain, that organization was born. That's the magic. That's the sacrifice. See, we always say in sacrifice, we don't really know what sacrifice means. We don't really understand how a sacrifice can work, especially spiritual sacrifice. It's not necessarily just saying, I'm just going to hand over my loved one so that I can have this in exchange. It's not that simple. You don't always know what you're exchanging. Like, spirit don't work that way. The way I view it, spirit rules shit. That's how I view it. So the way I see it, it's always spirit in control. It's never about an elitist. Even if somebody pulls some strings to do something, it's what has to be done. It's like the Jesus story, right? Like, why does there have to be a Judas? Because if that doesn't happen, you don't get the Savior. You don't get the sacrifice. So in my mind, the way my spirituality work, the way I channel, spirit always ruling this shit. So that's why I view symbolism, the occult and all that a different way. Because to me, that doesn't grant authority to those people. It grants the authority to that which it grants the authority to that which it is describing. To me, that's how I function. That's how I work. That's how I see it. That's how I gotta view it. But the death, the pain, all of that brought the transformation because he was at his darkest point. He was at his lowest point. You see him unshaven. He's drunk, like he's completely out of his character. This is the lowest particular point he's ever been in, yo. And that's the magic. So out of that pain, because nothing is more painful than death. Death is the ultimate pain point. It's the ultimate transformation. Nothing hurts like that because you're never gonna see that person no more. So death is always symbolic to like a transformation that can't be matched because that's a level of pain that you can never understand. It's gonna change you forever. It has to change you, and that's what transformation is. It's change. So death brings about change, an everlasting change. You never gonna be the same again. I mean, think about it. When you lose somebody that's really close to you, you lose a parent, a sibling, a best friend, or a spouse, a boyfriend, girlfriend. You lose somebody that you deal with every day. That changes you forever. You are never gonna be the same. And that's what this did. This brought out the transformation because the Kingsman agency doesn't exist yet. Out of all of these courses of event, that agency is born and is serving a higher or greater purpose out of the sacrifice of the life that was lost, which was his son. So with Conrad dying, so this is a pivotal moment in the story. So with the Duke on his decline and everything. All right. So and then it's at this particular point we see why the U.S. has not entered the war. Is because they have been infiltrated as well, and they allude to, and it mentions DuPont here. They just name dropping just to, kind of just furthermore insinuate that a lot of these people are associated with other things, and they have dealings with other people who have ulterior motives, things that we don't always know about. So Now we know, which of course we have figured that, of course, and it becomes more evident once the king he comes to speak to the duke, even though he's in this condition that he's in. He's coming to give him an update, to give him an update. So Russia has pulled out of the war. We doomed. We destined to be doomed. If it's not, if Russia don't kill us, no, if Germany don't kill us, the people are gonna starve. So, they're gonna uproar and they're gonna revolt. And he was like, I've been advised to change my German surname, Saxe Coburg, to Windsor, which is something that's more English, and that's something that has occurred historically. You see the changing of the names, sometimes dealing with the area, geographical region that they are in, to make it easier on themselves. But so the king comes to see the duke, let him know all of those type of things. And he also brought him his son's medal, his victorious cross, because what he did was, it was still a hero's moment, and he was still honored for that. And he said to him before he left, Conrad was a man who knew his duty. And on top of what the king has to say to him, and then you put Polly, the woman, because we have to remember one thing about the Duke is he's very strongly motivated by the feminine aspect. So in the beginning, all of his actions were motivated. He built around the promise, the words by his wife. So it takes for Polly to step up to him in this particular moment, aside from the king, to really push him. So he has a strong sense of being directed by a woman. She tells him, you have to be the man that your son would have been. He's not here. So you have to honor him and be the man that he would have been. And he knows there's no way he would have stood by and just would have wanted any of those things to just happen. He would have wanted to do his part. So the Duke knows he has to do his part. So in that sense, he picks himself up, and he gotta get at it. He has to finish what he started. And then, so after he picks himself up, he he uh he this is when he finds out the president is being blackmailed, because he was filmed being seduced by the woman Marta. And from there, that particular point, they figure out where Morton is, and they actually discovered where he was because of those goats, the cashmere. All of those people had the cashmere, and so he was able to trace back where it was based on the goats. And that's when he finds out who the culprit is. Okay, so now that they know, and they're going to approach, they're going to the goat, going to get dude or whatever. We gotta find out who the culprit is, and of course you find out it's been the dude from all along, Morton, the dude who was literally with Kitchener the whole time. So he's been had intel on the British the whole entire time, because he was supposed to be on their side. And we look at the name Morton, so it's an English and Scottish name, right? And it's habitational name from any of the many places called Moreton, named in Old English as settlement ton by or on a marsh or moor. Now, of course, they're saying they're meaning more land, but we know what that is really about. Okay, it's just referencing an old word or old energy that's always trying to come back, that's trying to continue to be suppressed. That's how we do with when we looking at these types of things. So they, of course, they win or what have you, right? So they're victorious, and he says, of course, thanks to you and your son. So his son died so they could win the war. So that's the overall theme of it all. That's the sacrifice. He lost his son, but they did save the whole kingdom, and in the process establish the Kingsman agency in itself. So you got the founders, so it's six. Now 6 plus the one on the wall makes 7. So we know there's seven spiritual number, 7 chakras, 7 days of the week. So the founders here, number 7, and they again come back to the reference to the King's Arthur's court, referencing something mystical, something hidden, but it's for the greater good. And so, and that pretty much is it. And then you get in the final credits, you see Lenin You see your Nazis. You see the Nazi movement. You see what brings on the World War II and the introduction of Adolf Hitler. So they're simply alluding to the fact of the Second World War in itself probably was because of something going on behind the scenes that we don't exactly know about, aside from what was told to us. So that's pretty much like the whole breakdown of the whole thing. And it's just about, you have to understand people passions are sometimes used against them because it makes for easy fuel. So a lot of times people believe in these movements and don't understand the underlying cause or what's really pushing these movements to happen. So that's how people become pawns and become used in movements and organizations that they don't necessarily really have any knowledge of, but they just fall in the middle of it because their position, wherever who they are, their influence, it just serves those people in utilizing who they are and where they are and their platform. So like in these times, you're looking at it back then, you're looking more at empires and governments. It was more obvious. Today, the game is a little more different. It's a little more subtle because a lot of these figureheads or these unseen position people, you gotta look at. Have y'all ever seen Billions and seen how billionaires and hedge fund people can work behind the scenes and literally change lawmakers and how whole cities are ran? And it's still the same thing. It's just in today's time we might see those people in a different type of position, but that's just how things go. Things are always ran from behind the curtain. So the key is to figure out who's running things from behind the curtain and to understand that the narrative that you're given most likely isn't the true real narrative anyway. So that pretty much concludes it though. If you have not got on the Patreon and checked out the whole full introduction to the occult, you need to go ahead on and do that. We still got part 2 that's gonna come for that, where we're gonna really deep dive into those schools of thoughts a little bit more, look real deep into Kabbalah, look real deep into tarot. So we're gonna break that down even further on part 2. But we just wanted to supplement some of the things in that introduction by utilizing this movie as an analogy. So that pretty much breaks it down. Be sure to subscribe to the channel, turn on your notifications if you have not yet. Follow me on all your social media platforms and subscribe on the Patreon. Peace.